Hi there, it's good to be back with you to talk about the FES Flower Essences, and today we're going to talk about worry. And I think everyone experiences worry to a greater or lesser degree. And one of the things I've noticed in practice too, it's a place you can go with people. Everyone's quite prepared to, concede, admit that they do worry, or they're a worrier, or they even volunteer the information. And it's a way in sometimes to find out a bit more. And whereas people might not quite say, well, I get very anxious, or I get stressed over that. But they will talk about worry. And if you worry, there'll automatically be some anxiety and some stress involved. So these remedies will benefit across the board in that sense. And it might just be an opportunity for people to sort of open up a bit more. And so you can, again, identify the best flower essences for them and give them the best treatment as a practitioner. So the first one I want to look at is fillory. Now, fillory is a great one for worriers, but it's particularly when people have to manage a lot of things. I don't know how many clients I've had that are managers at their work in some way or some shape or form, and they have to manage a lot of different things and they're worrying constantly, and that certainly affects their judgment and decisions they make, and ultimately their health. It runs them down, the nervous system's on edge, and they get other problems as a result of that stress. But fillory allows people to see things in context, but also identify the absolute detail, identify the things you need to deal with, so all the other things can then fall into place. Sometimes we're looking at all these things that seem to be out of control, and fillory will get overwhelmed. The person who needs fillory will get overwhelmed. But fillory will help you identify, no, it's over there I need to deal with, and that will bring other things into place. So a more holistic view, but at the same time noticing the details that you need to, rather than being overwhelmed by a whole lot of details. So great remedy, and certainly helps the worrying kind. Hound's tongue is another one. Hound's tongue is when you're sort of down and you need to step back. You're worrying about this and that, even the mundaneness of what you're doing, every little detail. I said, why am I getting so worried about such a trifling thing? Hound's tongue allows you to lift your sort of perspective, lift your attitude, elevate it a bit, become a bit more buoyant, but also be much more philosophical about it, and see it. It's real. It's not a mountain. It's a molehill, and that's what you need to see. And Hound's tongue will help that, and help that sort of heavy head where you're worrying about everything. Everything seems so mundane and almost drudgery. It'll just lift the spirit. Lavender is another one. Lavender's more a great one in particular for when you're worrying about something at work, but it's 9 o'clock at night. Lavender helps you to sort of let go of things. So you might have a fairly full-on day, mentally intense day, but lavender is going to help you sort of walk away from it and let it go. Often there is headaches. Often there is a lot of the symptoms that you would generally give the herb or even the essential oil. But lavender is about that, just letting it go and just putting it in its place, gaining perspective, and for example, during the week, enjoying the rest of the weekend in a more relaxed state of mind. So lavender, and not worrying about work, not worrying about these things in the back of your mind that are weighing you down. Nasturtium. Nasturtium's just for the person who's always thinking too much. They're too what I call cerebral. And what comes with that is lots of worries, lots of things churning up, weighing so much in their mind. And it's almost like if they're sitting at a desk, their head will be so heavy it'll just fall on it. It's things that are out of balance. Nasturtium, again, is about elevating it, lifting you, seeing things in a greater context rather than getting caught up in those little little details that are driving you crazy, that you can, even that perfectionism, where you're trying to fix everything. It's interesting about perfection. Nasturtiums, I always think of accountants for some reason. That it's good to be able to balance the figures and do all that, but if you stay in that state of mind all the time, just worrying about the little bits and pieces and balancing things perfectly, that can be a bit of a worry for the rest of your life. So nasturtiums, just lightening up, adding a bit of emotional colour to what you're doing. It's interesting with nasturtium, a lot of my clients sort of responded well to that. We're also getting lots of colds and head colds and things like that. It's almost like there's too much waste up in their head because it's just working overtime, and they tend to get these colds or these sinusy type things. So nasturtium can help lift the person, bring in a bit more colour to their lives, a bit more emotional colour, and lighten up in that sense. Peppermint, again, clarity, mental clarity. Peppermint's one of my favourite ones for giving teachers at the end of a semester when they're tired, exhausted, and just at the time at the end of semesters, although things have been obviously changed with pandemics and things, but generally when they would get to that last few weeks, they'd be tired, and of course they'd have more work than ever because there'd be exams to correct, there'd be the usual little writings they have to do about each student, etc., which usually they do at home. So they're doing all this sort of mental work, and there's worrying about that. Will I get it done? Will I be able to? Well, peppermint peps you up, brings about some more mental clarity, brings about a bit more mental energy, so you don't get weighed down with all the worries of that. Rabbit brush is another one. Rabbit brush is a lot about the mind going in every different direction, and rabbit brush helps you to concentrate better. But when you worry about anything, when there's when you worry about not having something to worry about, rabbit brush is perfect for that. Just your mind's just going, just calm it down, stay with what you're doing, don't go off on a tangent and worry about something else. So rabbit brush, very good for concentration, often a good one when people are studying, etc. But it's also when you're worrying and you're worried about all these different things that may or not be. Shasta daisy, there's a similarity there, and both of those tend to be in the study mixes that I hand out to students or people that are doing a bit more mental work. They're going to be examined on it, etc. Shasta daisy is about bringing it all together. When you very good for people who collect lots of bits of information, and it's all about tying it together. There are some people that are very good at applying something in one area and say, oh, well, I know how I could apply the same sort of thing over here. Whereas perhaps a Shasta daisy person I've got that right. Oh, this is a new situation, and starts worrying about it. How am I going to, and almost starting from scratch when you can apply it over there. It has that sort of more, again, that holistic view, so you can tie things together and say, well, I can understand why that'll work there because it worked in this situation, which superficially might seem different, but it's very similar. And finally, zinnia. Zinnia, I think I've said with all of these, that you need to uplift the mind, because that's what worrying does. It sort of spirals you down into a narrow mind that just is looking at the details, getting it lost in that, and worrying about that and churning it over. But you've lost that mindfulness, that broader perspective. And one way of going there is cheering you up, lightening up. And zinnia is a fantastic remedy just to lift you up, become more playful, have some fun. We all know that if we have a bit of our mind's taken off something that has been a big worry, we go and have some fun, we go and see some movie, we go and see someone that we can have a really good laugh with or coffee with. We come back to that same issue. It's not the worrisome issue that we once thought it was. And Zinnia is just helping you to apply that 24/7. So a great remedy in that sense. So I hope we can help with your worrying. All right, thank you. I'll see you next time.